The starship Eclipse drifted silently through the void, its sleek, obsidian hull reflecting the faint light of a distant sun. It was a vessel designed for stealth, for observation, and for war. Aboard it, the crew of the Galactic Union's most advanced reconnaissance unit worked tirelessly, their mission clear: study the newly discovered species known as humans and determine their threat level to the Union. Among the crew was Zynara, a Zalithian operative. Zalithians were known for their cold, calculating nature, their ability to detach from emotions, and their unparalleled skill in espionage. Zynara was no exception. She had spent decades infiltrating alien civilizations, gathering intelligence, and, when necessary, eliminating threats. Humans were just another assignment, or so she thought. The Eclipse had been orbiting Earth for 3 months, monitoring human activity. Zynara had observed their wars, their art, their science, and their strange, inexplicable capacity for both destruction and creation. She had watched them from afar, analyzing their behavior, their weaknesses, their potential. But something about them intrigued her in a way no other species had. They were unpredictable, illogical, emotional. And then there was him. Dr. Elias Carter was a human scientist working on a classified project for Earth's Global Defense Initiative. Zynara had been assigned to monitor him specifically, as his research into quantum entanglement posed a potential threat to the Union's technological superiority. She had expected him to be like the others, driven by ambition, fear, or greed. But Elias was different. He was kind. He was curious. And he was lonely. Zynara had infiltrated his lab under the guise of a fellow scientist, using a holographic disguise to blend in. She told herself it was just part of the mission, that getting close to him was necessary to gather intel. But as the days turned into weeks, she found herself drawn to his warmth, his humor, his relentless optimism. She found herself caring. It was a dangerous feeling. Zalithians were not supposed to care. Emotions were a liability, a weakness. And yet, Zynara couldn't help herself. She began to look forward to their conversations, to the way his eyes lit up when he talked about his work, to the way he smiled at her as if she were something more than just a colleague. "You're not like the others," Elias said one evening, as they sat in his lab, surrounded by the hum of machinery and the glow of holographic displays. Zynara froze, her heart, or the Zalithian equivalent, pounding in her chest. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice carefully neutral. "I mean," he hesitated, running a hand through his messy brown hair. "You actually listen. You care about what I'm saying. Most people just nod and pretend to understand, but you get it." She looked away, her mind racing. This was a mistake. She was getting too close, too involved. She needed to pull back, to remember her mission. But when she looked at him, at the earnestness in his eyes, she couldn't bring herself to do it. "I care," she said softly, the words slipping out before she could stop them. Elias smiled, and for a moment, the weight of her deception felt unbearable. The weeks turned into months, and Zynara's internal conflict only grew. She continued to report back to the Eclipse, feeding the Union information about Elias's research, about Earth's defenses, about humanity's strengths and weaknesses. But with each transmission, she felt a pang of guilt, a growing sense of betrayal. And then came the day she had been dreading. The Union had decided that Elias's research was too dangerous to allow to continue. They issued a direct order: eliminate him and destroy his work. Zynara stared at the message on her datapad, her hands trembling. She had known this was a possibility, had prepared herself for it. But now that the moment was here, she couldn't do it. She couldn't kill him. She found Elias in his lab, as always, hunched over a console, his brow furrowed in concentration. He looked up when she entered, his face lighting up with a smile. Hey, he said. I was just about to call you. I think I've made a breakthrough. If I'm right, this could change everything. Zynara's chest tightened. Elias, she began, her voice barely above a whisper. He frowned, sensing her distress. What's wrong? She took a deep breath, steeling herself. I need to tell you something. Something important. He stepped closer, his concern evident. You can tell me anything, you know that. She looked into his eyes, and in that moment, she made her decision. I'm not who you think I am, she said. I'm not human. I'm an alien. A Zalithian operative. I was sent here to study you, to gather intelligence. And now they want me to kill you. Elias stared at her, his expression unreadable. For a long moment, there was only silence. Then, to her surprise, he laughed. I knew it, he said, a grin spreading across his face. I mean, not the alien part, but I knew there was something different about you. Something extraordinary. Zynara blinked, stunned. You're not angry? Or afraid? Of course I'm afraid, he admitted. But more than that, I'm relieved. I thought I was going crazy, falling for someone who seemed too good to be true. But now I know, you're real. And you're here. Her heart ached at his words. Elias, you don't understand. My people, they'll stop at nothing to complete their mission. If I don't kill you, they'll send someone else. And they'll destroy everything you've worked for. He reached out, taking her hand in his. Then we'll fight them together. You're not alone anymore, Zynara. And neither am I. The Union's forces arrived 3 days later. The Eclipse descended from orbit, its weapons primed, its crew ready to carry out their orders. But they were met with unexpected resistance. Elias had used his research to create a quantum shield, a barrier that rendered the Union's weapons useless. And Zynara, using her knowledge of Union tactics, led the counterattack. Together, they fought back, not just for Earth, but for each other. In the end, the Union was forced to retreat. The Eclipse limped back into the void, its mission a failure. And on Earth, Zynara and Elias stood side by side, watching as the starship disappeared into the night sky. You were never supposed to get close to me, Zynara said softly, her voice tinged with regret. But now it's too late. Elias smiled, squeezing her hand. I wouldn't have it any other way. And for the first time in her life, Zynara allowed herself to feel hope. Hope for a future, for a new beginning. Hope for a love that defied the stars. In the years that followed, Zynara and Elias worked together to bridge the gap between their species. They proved that even in the vast, cold expanse of the universe, there was room for understanding, for compassion, for love. And though the Union never forgot their betrayal, they never returned. For they had learned a valuable lesson: never underestimate the power of a human heart, or the bond it could create with even the most unlikely of allies. The stars still burned brightly in the sky, but for Zynara and Elias, the greatest light was the one they had found in each other. And in that light, they found a future worth fighting for.